And we are live.
Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss and internet shitlords. Please tell us if the sound's on. Oh, the sound is on apparently. Wow, we're doing really well. So I was typing as we were starting there because someone asked me how is summer down here, and let me tell you that it is hot. It's today was a high of 32 degrees Celsius. That's like 90 degrees for
Celsius.
you Americans, and it's only going to get hotter here.
Is it also 37 meters hot?
You Imperials.
Damn right.
Okay, so we got a good show for you tonight. This is the RPG Pundit, the final boss of Internet Shitlords, and I'm here today with Benger and Job as usual. And we are going to be talking, well, we were going to be talking about praiseworthy things in gaming. And I don't want to say that there are no praiseworthy things in gaming, but it was Benger's job to come up with some, and he didn't. He gave me a litany of excuses before the show started, which is his long-winded way of saying he's got nothing. So maybe
I just thought it was a good idea. I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna track down all the good stuff and like report back. I was like, maybe we could just talk about good stuff that people are doing that we like instead of tearing down the woke social justice warriors that we normally do and just rail on the things that we hate. So in theory, it was probably a great idea.
In theory, yes, it was a great idea. Anyways, maybe somebody
not so much.
Maybe somebody in the audience will mention something in our live chat, wants to mention something praiseworthy that is happening in gaming right now. Malky's Mercurial Musing said there is one praiseworthy thing. Benjer's next Chalt book funded. So there you go.
There you go. $16,800 some dollars.
On that note, I would like to add that I've finished an agreement. I've got a deal on a publisher for my upcoming book on the Crusades and the Silk Road, and we will probably see that product available sometime in the first part of next year, if all goes well. So I have made a contract with Mad Scribe Games, who are a small company, but they produced a product that I reviewed that I thought had very high production values for indie publishing. And that was the first thing that drew me to them. And so now they're going to be publishing my Crusades and Silk Road book, which as yet has not had a final decision for a name. So we've got stuff happening right here that is praiseworthy. So I guess we should move on to our main topic of the night, which is Goodman Games has gone full woke. Job, did you want to introduce us on that as the resident Goodman Games expert?
Yeah, sure thing. So the Dungeon Crawl Classics was the 9th printing, I believe, is coming out. Yeah, 9th printing. So it's got a pretty cool looking cover by I believe it's Stefan Pogue, and a decent spine. But one of the biggest things that they announced with this for the interior of the book is that they've adjusted everything to use gender neutral pronouns, which from what I understand, it's they want to do it's going to be they them for everything. So I don't know. What do you guys think of that?
Venture?
I was just thinking just now, is that better than using the female only pronoun? And is that, because for a while that was super popular and that just bugged the shit out of me because that doesn't make any sense from a historical English language perspective. Plus the number of female gamers is like, or was, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's increased dramatically now, but before, back when I was in gaming in the 80s and 90s, female gamers made up, what, like 10%, maybe 15% of the active gaming population. So to cater to women only with the pronouns, it didn't make any sense in gaming books. I know White Wolf and Vampire the Masquerade wanted to be as hip and trendy and woke before woke was a thing, but it just didn't make any sense. So maybe they them is like better somehow. but maybe that's the further trying to erase women, which I feel like woke and the transgender and the alphabet people or alphabet mafia are trying to do. But the reason that they're doing it, if they were just doing it because they thought it made more sense or it was more readable, that's one thing. But obviously they're doing it to appear more, woke or more, social justice. So that right there pisses me off and makes me not want to buy it, not want to associate with it. So those are my basic thoughts.
I'm with you on the pronoun thing. I mean, I don't see the reason to retcon their book over it, but I always just thought, they, then, or they, them, or any of these like neo pronouns, even worse, is like it makes it confusing. I don't know if they're talking about one person, two people, you know what I mean? It like goes back and forth. And, What, are they going to go back and change all the adventures and stuff now? Probably the future ones will all use that like tone or something.
Probably, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if historically you used male gendered pronouns or whatever, or other books have like switched back and forth, like I don't understand why you would change it. From what I understand too, they're not going to change anything else in the layout, but the they them stuff. So all the I love the guy Chuck Whalen, the he does all the cartoons in there, but as far as from a social justice lens, I mean, Chuck Whalen's work is pretty problematic. There's a lot of kind of sexual jokes and stuff like that. So, as soon as you open the door to this stuff, then the drumbeat from the hordes that you just let through the gate, they get on social media and just start the drumbeat and don't stop. So I fully expect the next thing is Chuck Whalen's art's going to be excised from the book. And then they won't stop there. It'll go on to are some of these Doug Kovac's fighters too sexualized or something, the female fighters.
So I guess it's my turn now. I'll point out as I'm preparing to light my pipe here that a lot of times, we know the agenda behind this, behind the they, them. And that's what pisses me off. The mere fact of using they does not piss me off and I think that this is maybe a difference between American and like Commonwealth English, because it seems like a lot of Americans are really convinced that this is not an appropriate use of the word they, but in fact, in Commonwealth English, it's always been used that way, is that they is a perfectly functional singular pronoun when you are talking about a non-specific individual, right? So if I were to say, for example, the doctor went into the office to get their stethoscope, that would be correct English according to the Queen's English, right? Or if I said, this person has to go to the bathroom, they can decide which bathroom to go to because they're in California. That would be a completely acceptable use of they, right? Contrary to what apparently some Americans think, which say, no, you have to say him or her, right? And by default, it should be him. This is not a big issue to me because of the actual pronoun. It's an issue because it's a sign of Goodman catering to a particular political ideology, and one that I'm pretty sure, let's face it, is not Goodman's biggest market, right? It's not the people that buy Dungeon Crawl Classics for the most part, because Dungeon Crawl Classics being gonzo is automatically something that is suspect, I think, to anyone on the left. It's too dangerously close to stuff like heavy metal and having a good time in general. So like there's it's something that they think can't, because it's not serious and therefore cannot be made into something with serious political messaging, So they're not going to be, they're never going to be fans of Dungeon Crawl Classics, and instead it's pissing off other people, right? It's pissing off the existing player base for no good reason.
Right, exactly. The
Now,
whole game
Yeah,
is white supremacy, right? I mean, it's colonialism. You go in, you kill everybody and steal their crap.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But beyond that, it's like too wacky and weird. And, Gonzo has always been a subversive genre. And that's why it used to be a genre of the left, like Hunter S. Thompson and people like that, right? But it has now very clearly become a genre of the right, a genre of, 4chan and, the kind of evil that like this kind of bizarroness that is transgressive of the establishment,
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree with you 100%, Pundit. I mean, it's they, them, okay, whatever. But it's definitely the agenda behind it. I was in a front row seat to see all this stuff too, right? Because back in when did I start? I started Spellburn in when was that? 20. You can tell right on my site, or on the site, 2014. What was the first show? Let's see. Oh, 2013, June 2013. I started that with Jim Wampler and his name, Judge Jeff. Drawing a blank on his last name. Damn it. Anyway, those guys were great, and so as we went on, we actually, we a lot of this kind of woke stuff was going on behind the scenes and just in gaming in general, So I left in like 2017, and I handed over the reins. So, when we had an opening, we brought in Judge Jen, because we're like, hey, let's see if we can find a woman to, round out our cast, We brought on Judge Jen, and that worked okay. She was an okay host, pretty decent. And then when I was finally going to leave, there was this guy Jeff Goad. I don't know if anyone knows Jeff Goad, but he was on the show back then, and he's a gay white male. So a lot of the other people were like, yeah, let's be diverse, make our cast even more diverse. Let's get some queer people or whatever. So I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. And so I left, listened to the show for like another 6 months, and just if you listen to the show, it just got terrible. It wound down. All these people started writing all these, like, they ran out of technical content of what to talk about with DCC RPG. I mean, the rules for the game are like maybe 22 pages or something of the entire tome. So yeah, let Jeff in the door. He seemed like the one that kind of tilted the whole thing into horrible space. So I actually wrote them a letter that they read on air. So if you I was thinking maybe I could just play it. I queued it up if you guys want to hear it. But these were my thoughts in 2018, in January of 2018.
Okay. All right. Let's hear this.
Hopefully you guys can hear this. This is not going to be another sound fail. Everybody tell us in the chat room if you can hear stuff or not. It's just like a minute long.
Dear Judge Jeff, I strongly disagree with your views on episode 63. Creativity has absolutely nothing to do with race, gender, or sexual orientation. When you said we should make space for more diverse content creators in tabletop gaming, it sounds like you were advocating for handing out the already sparse and low-paying RPG writing and art gigs out to untested talent based on physical traits that have no bearing on their ability to paint, design game rules, or meet deadlines. The content creators who have bubbled to the top did so because of their talent and long hours of hard work. They sacrificed countless hours that could have been spent with loved ones or doing more lucrative work. Also, you seem to be making a lot of assumptions about the ethnicity and sexual orientation of these creators. What are you basing those assumptions on? If you want more diversity in RPG content creators, I urge you to pick up a pen and express your own unique voice. I, for one, can't wait to F everyone to death in your white gay male dungeon. I wouldn't mind reading your writing either. So if you haven't guessed by that end, it is from Mr. Judge Job Bittman. So thank you.
Anyway, I'll just cut it off there. They basically just like talk a little bit there and waffle around and basically, you know, don't say anything, and then at the end they're you know, reaffirm that, you know, we need more diversity in people that are writing games and stuff. So anyway, the show just went downhill, and I just about around that time I stopped listening to them. People would IM me every once in a while, and they'd be like, "This show is terrible now, man. I'm sorry." So. You guys still there? I lose you?
Did you want to get to the con guidelines, Pundit?
Sorry?
Did you want to get to the con guidelines?
Oh, yes. Okay. So now this is not, yeah, the pronouns thing is not the moment where Goodman Games loses me. But this next thing is. So if it had just been that they're changing everything to they, them, whatever, they're panderers, but fine, right? But Goodman Games took charge of an online con, I think it was, called Dungeon Con Online 2021. And they wrote up a code of conduct for that guideline, for that convention, right? And it is basically a 100% woke document, you know. And I'm going to give you some examples of what we're talking about here. So it states Dungeon Con Online play guidelines. Okay, in the course of exemplifying Dungeon Con Online principles, and I'm quoting here, I'm reading directly from their document, right? All members of our community shall function within the following guidelines. Clearly declare the concept, aim, tone, and subject matter, including clear content warnings of every game shared on Dungeon Con Online. All right. Plan regular breaks and outline the schedule for them at the start of each session. When wishing to record and or publicly share a game session, notify with our SVP. Okay, that's all right. In the event a player decides that a gaming session not be shared after the fact, honor the request. Okay, yeah. Respect player pronouns and character pronouns. Routinely reaffirm these throughout play and at the start of each session. So here we're starting to get into a bit of a problem, right? Because the first thing that they're telling you here is, okay, you know, ask everybody their pronoun. All right, I would be willing to say, fine, whatever, it's stupid, but let's do that. But then it says, at regular moments throughout play, you have to double check.
You're already ceding too much of the terrain.
All right, but it's another thing when you have to constantly be checking. I don't know, every 30 minutes. You have to go, okay, did anyone's pronouns change? You know, like, what kind of bullshit is this, you know? Because, and you know, that's why it is, right? It's to make sure, because, you know, there's gender fluid people, right? That's 0.00001% of people that just like spontaneously switch genders at random moments throughout the day, right? You have to change their pronouns. Next point. Respect player autonomy and practice regular check-ins to affirm enthusiastic agreement of the game development. Explain and incorporate tools of online safe play, including X cards, into every game shared on Dungeon Con Online. So the DM has to do whatever the players ask. If the player, you know, he has to routinely check to make sure that the players are okay with how he's directing his adventure. And they have the right to immediately veto anything that the DM is doing by laying out an X card, you know. And this is the point where they have, you know, lost me completely. But then it kind of gets even past that, in that, you know, in a later section of these guidelines, it says this policy. First of all, this is where they describe this at the very end. They say this policy is based on the existing XOXO community code of conduct, based on resources provided by Geek Feminism, that's capital G, capital F, so I assume it's an organization, and borrows heavily from open source policies authored by JSConAU and Django. It says, as part of the things that has to do with harassment, it says, harassment includes offensive comments to gender identity expression, sexual orientation, disability, mental illness, neurotype, physical appearance, body, age, race, ethnicity, nationality, language, or religion. Unwelcome comments regarding a person's lifestyle choices and practices, including those related to food, health, parenting, drugs, and employment. So presumably you can't call someone fat because they're fat. You know?
Did you hear that, President Biden? Did you hear that?
That's right.
What's a
Deliberate
fat?
use of deliberate use of incorrect names or pronouns, including misgendering or the use of dead or rejected names. Gratuitous or off-topic sexual images or behaviors in spaces not appropriate. Okay, fine. Physical contact and simulated physical contact without consent or a request to stop. But that includes physical contact. Makes perfect sense, right? Nobody should touch someone else without their permission at a con, right? Perfect. Okay, fine, right? Simulated.
Well, even that I think is arguable.
Well,
but
considering how some nerds are, it's probably better, right? But anyways, but then it says simulated physical contact. What is simulated physical contact? The example given is textual descriptions, because remember, this is a virtual con. There will be no physical contact, right? Textual descriptions like kiss or massaging without consent. Okay, so you're not allowed to send a text thing suggesting a physical contact, even though physical contact is literally impossible at this con. Derogatory comments that refer to a particular person without directly mentioning them as a means of mockery or criticism, so subtweeting or vague booking. Making false communications written, spoken, or posted on any social media that harms a member's DungeonCon online reputation. Acts that engender health and safety. And let me just see here. So, deliberately outing any person's identity, unless it's me, of course, anybody else. That's the thing here, is that all of these guidelines, and let me make a point that this is explicitly in the text, right? It's very clearly laid out so that it says here, DungeonCon Online prioritizes marginalized people's safety over privileged people's comfort. So in other words, if you're the wrong skin color or the wrong gender or the wrong sexuality, then you are not going to be protected, right? They're allowed to attack you. But if you do anything that makes them feel, claim that they feel unsafe, then you're going to be the one that gets into trouble, right? So they could out me, for example, or they could, send messages telling Venger that they want to fuck his face or something like that, a text message like that, and they're going to be okay because they're not the wrong skin color and the wrong gender and the wrong sexuality. It also says DungeonCon reserves the right not to act on complaints against criticisms of racist, sexist, cis-sexist, or otherwise oppressive behavior or assumptions. So anything you say is just oppression, right? So if they then shit all over you, that's okay because they're just reacting to your aggression. In fact, you don't have to say anything. Just your presence could be oppression to them. And they're entitled to say or do anything to you. But you're not allowed to say or do anything without being at risk of being sanctioned for creating an unsafe environment. So this is full 100% wokeness, right? Like it's absolute, directly unbelievable levels of wokeness. And unless Goodman Games disavows this, I think it's very clear that Goodman is a red list company and no normal gamer should buy any product from them ever again until they do disavow it,
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. So, I don't know. I mean, I talked to some of the designers and stuff, and artists and stuff still. But, they really do, think the same way. They think all this stuff. I know Goodman doesn't. He doesn't give a crap. He just wants money, He's
Well, somebody's got to tell this guy that's not how you're going to make money. You're going to lose money doing this shit.
Well, I mean, I've mentioned this on the show before. I probably shouldn't talk about it, but I talked to Bill Webb from Frog God the Games before, and he told me that that woke version of Swords and Wizardry that Stephanie.
Yeah, it was the worst selling one ever. Yeah,
Yeah, he
it
said
wasn't even a woke one. It was just the all female art version, right?
right. Yeah,
Well,
yeah. They don't think they didn't even change anything other than the art, and he's like, we can't sell it. There's just stacks and stacks of it. Like no one wants this crap, except like
That's right.
some like fringe on Twitter that just screams all the time,
Yeah. So Goodman better turn back before it's too late, because this is not your audience, dude. These people that are complaining about you and saying you have to do this, you have to, you have to be appropriate and you have to show up and stand for marginalized people and all this sort of bullshit that they're selling you. They're not going to buy your game. It doesn't matter how much you change it. They don't care about your game. They would be happy for your company to go under. They don't care. And all they want is to try to force you to ruin the game for the people that do care. Don't listen to them, because the people that do care are going to stop buying from you. Comments from the peanut gallery here.
Yeah.
Shadzar said,
That's good.
I agree with Venger that we should rename the OSR to Let's Go Brandon Tabletop with the acronym, therefore, LGBT. That's just genius. Let's Go Brandon Tabletop. The LGBT gaming.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Ryan says 10th printing published under Good Being Games.
What's being published under Good Being Games? Oh, 10th printing. Oh, I see.
Can't be called man
I get,
anymore.
it took me a second, but I got it.
Oh, Shansar says Good Mixin Games. That's a good one.
Rogue Usagi said, when an RPG has an X card section, I know not to buy that RPG. Damn right.
Yeah. Have you guys? Someone mentioned earlier that a lot of the 5e stuff they did is woke. I haven't really kept up with any of that. Do you guys know about any of that material?
5e is becoming increasingly woke with each official publication, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, I just meant the Goodman game stuff, but yeah, I guess it would make sense.
Oh, the 5e Goodman game stuff. Oh, I see. I don't know anything about that. I never paid any attention to their 5e stuff.
Yeah, I still pick up a couple one. Like I don't really like Harley Stroh's writing, so if I still pick up his modules from time to time if I see him at the store. But for the most part, I don't keep up with any of that garbage.
Mr. Triceratops says Judge Jen or Jeff. Are those two like married or something?
No.
Oh, yeah, just different people. All right.
Yeah, Judge
Tells
Jeff
a
is
story
Jeff
about
Goad.
how-
He's gay. Judge Jen
Oh,
is
yeah.
Brinkman. If you know who Bob Brinkman is, he's like another talentless hack.
Oh, he's that
writer.
DCC guy that had a YouTube channel at some point, right?
I think so. Yeah, he's done some of the DCC shows. I think. I don't know.
Okay.
He's obnoxious.
That's
he's
where
like
it
one of the
sounds
wokest of
familiar
the
to
woke
me.
of those guys.
Yeah, super woke. Yeah. So Judge Jen or Jeff tells a story about how they insisted a Trump supporter remove a MAGA hat as an event, as it made others feel unsafe.
I could believe that. That is like right in line with kind of the behavior and thoughts that I've heard expressed.
Well, made stupid people feel unsafe, I guess. Yeah. But I'm sure they wouldn't make someone take off a BLM hat,
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's the age.
That's exactly the problem with all of this sort of bullshit politicizing, right? Is that it's not about maintaining a neutral environment. It's about propaganda and pushing one agenda against another,
Yeah, exactly.
It's about altering the rules so that one side is at a disadvantage. Sadwings Raging says, you can take my MAGA hat from my cold, dead hand. I don't wear caps, but if I did, it would be a MAGA cap.
Okay, I do. I figure I just talk about this real quick right now, because before the show, Darren P was on and he was asking me why I left the Dying Earth project. So I had talked about it before. Basically, I kind of made a statement on Facebook a long time ago that's basically said like it's we had a falling out or a disagreement, creative differences. But basically, it's basically what happened is I worked on the book for a year. I'd already written like 50,000 words. I had read the series 9 times, Dying Earth. I had like made all these copious notes and everything. And with the agreement that I was going to write the Dying Earth RPG, based on the same, similar
on DCC, yeah.
Right. So, but what happened just like MCC was, well, they had some issues with MCC with it, like whatever, some issues with the rules because, the DCC editors read it and they didn't notice that like the dice chain wasn't explained, all this other stuff. So that all these people were complaining that it wasn't a complete system, and it was billed as one. So they came back to me and they're like, "Oh well, yeah, we're changing it. Just it has to be DCC compatible." And I was like, "I've been writing this for a year and a few months. Like, that sucks. Like I have to redo everything. Like I don't want to. I'm not even interested in that. I wanted to write the Dying Earth RPG, not DCC." Content or whatever for it. They went back and forth, and then finally I was like, okay, fine. And we hadn't signed a contract. I said, you know what, fine. And I asked for like a few very simple things. I was like, okay, so if there's a Kickstarter, like let's set the word count was, I don't remember. He gave me some number for the thing, and he was like, well, if the Kickstarter does well, I'll give you a bonus. I was like, okay, great, let's write that into a contract. Nope. And then he started saying all this stuff about, well, have you ever written this many words in one book? And like, doing the negging thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was totally negging me and stuff. And he does this to all the people that like work for Goodman Games. And I always just kind of blew him off. But he like, it's kind of a cult. It seriously is, dude. He gets all these people to work for free in the booths, and he'll rent a hotel room and stack 6 people in there sleeping on the floor. And then they go to Gen Con and like run games for him. And then they work his booth and they're all like, oh, I'm part of the DCC crew. I get like a free book or something. And it's like, you guys are suckers. Like, this guy's making bank. This guy's making bank, and you guys are all a bunch of suckers. So finally, he was pushing back on me, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to write this. Delete all my shit. I'm out of this project. Goodbye. And I don't think he thought I was going to walk. He thought I was one of these pussies that sucks up to him all the time. I'm like, you're wrong, dude. I'll walk away from a year of work. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I'm not going to eat shit.
Well, you should take what you did there and make a generic game with it or something. Like file the serial number off.
It's right here, man.
Definitely.
There we go.
Brutal Blades. I changed it into Brutal Blades. So all that work, the design work I did is getting used.
That's good to know.
Yeah, that's good.
Anyway, hopefully that answers your question, Darren.
All right. So the basically these guys have lost the entire plot, and they somehow think that the crowd of people that are, that are simping for Joe Rosenbaum right now are going to buy Dungeon Crawl Classics, like this is not very likely. And
is that a segue?
Well, I guess so, because unless we got anything else to say about DCC.
Well, I'm going to dunk on Joe Goodman one more time to show you what kind of guy this guy is. I've worked for people like this before. So, back in the day or whatever, I would have to argue with him to get like 3 cents a word, and I was like, hey, I've written these great modules. I want some more money. He's like, and then he's like, oh, we're going to have this Goodman Games gathering, and he was like, we're going to fly everybody out for 4 days, put them in a hotel, take them to all these things or whatever. And so all these guys went. I didn't go, and I'm just like, this guy is arguing with me over 1 penny a word, and he's flying all these people out. It's going to cost like $5,000 a person at least. You know what I mean? Give me $5,000. I don't want to hang out with a bunch of woke cards that that some of them can write and some of them can't. So Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sad. Well, before we do move over to the next topic of the night, is this the moment where we should be pimping our stuff?
Yeah,
Sure.
let's go flip on over. We're gonna head to the king here. Whoops, that's the wrong screen. Hold on, not the king. The good. All right, you're up, pundit.
All right. Well, right now, of course, I'm still promoting the Invisible College RPG. It's doing very well. It's a bestseller already, and it is a complete OSR game for playing occult, magical conspiracy in a modern setting. It's 432 pages. You can get it on Amazon or drive-through, in softcover or hardcover or PDF. And check it out, and continue to check out my channel as I reveal more of the details about the book in the videos. If you're not yet convinced, but it's a great game, getting a lot of very positive results from that. Besides that, I've got two pieces of good news. One that I already mentioned, which is that I now have a publisher for my Silk Road book. Mad Scribe Games is going to be doing that. And second, that Spectre Press is going forward and getting quite advanced, actually, with the next old school companion book, which will be Medieval Authentic Adventures. It'll be a fairly large book full of different short adventures that are oriented to a medieval authentic style of play. So that should be pretty cool. I think you're going to like it. So be sure to check it out. It's the second compilation volume on the Medieval Authentic series. And I just today they sent me the mock-up for the cover, and the cover's going to look great. It's in a similar artistic style to the first old school companion, and it'll be coming maybe even before the end of the year. Who knows? And if not, early next year. And the Silk Road book should be coming out in the first third of 2022. So let's hope that that's right. You never know, because there can be delays, but that's the plan anyway.
Now, pundit, is Invisible College still a silver bestseller? Is it because that's what I have on here? Did it improve?
Let me see. I don't know, because it's selling about equal amounts on Amazon. So
okay,
it might not have. No, it's still silver on drive-through from what I can
cool.
see.
Just checking. I forgot to update your show screens before the show. So
now, Lion and Dragon recently, between last episode and this one, it hit platinum bestseller. So it's continuing to do really well. And Darren P says here in the comments, he goes, I finally got my copy of Invisible College last month. I had to cancel my original order and order again. It came right away. That's good to hear. So yeah, check all of that out. Sadwin Raging says Charles Martel did nothing wrong. That's not that wasn't really in the Crusade though. I'm talking about the setting of the Crusades, and Silk Road book is going to be the timeline starts with the Third Crusade. So that's Richard Lionheart that we're talking about, and the liberation of Acre. So it goes from there. But yes, Richard Lionheart did nothing wrong.
All right, we want to go on to Avenger?
Go ahead, Benjer.
Oh, okay.
I just got
good
Chartreuse
news.
Shadows up there, FYI.
What's that?
I still have Chartreuse Shadows
Oh,
up
okay.
there.
That's fine. That completed a week ago, maybe a little less than 5-6 days ago. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, I reached over $16,000. So that was awesome. There was a while where I was not sure that it was going to fund. So I'm very happy that it did. Working hard on that shit right now. Because some of the contents from prior PDFs that I kickstarted will be in there. But there's going to be all new content too, which is mainly the new mega dungeon I'm currently writing. It's called Kremzam Irixam, and it's a whole multi-level subterranean mega dungeon, and it's the same Eldritch, Gonzo, science fantasy, post-apocalyptic stuff that you all know and love from the other Chult volumes. And this is going to close out the trilogy. And then I'm going to, after that, probably slide away to other things. Probably get a move on Encounter Critical. We'll see. Maybe I'll do a hardcover version of like Alpha Blue or the Islands of Purple Antiputrescence, something like that. If you missed the Kickstarter for Chartreuse Shadows, just email me and I'll get you. You can PayPal me and I'll get you on as a backer. Basically, you'll get all the same stuff that you could during the campaign. We'll just do it off the books. I think. I was just on the Evil DM podcast just a couple nights ago, just this last Friday. That was a good time. We talked about Gonzo, and we also talked about VentureCon. That's coming up next July in 2022. So if you're into old school gaming and perhaps Wisconsin,
now, is that a real con? Is that a real con or is it a virtual con?
Oh no, it's an in-person con. It's a real con. I'm sure there'll be a cyber virtual component, but yeah, it's a real. I've already rented out the hotel space, so yeah, it's a real legit con.
Now, Venger, are we allowed to inappropriately touch our players at VentureCon?
The fact that you use the word inappropriate. Probably not, unless you're talking about our show. If it's in that vein, then yes. But if you're like, I mean, it depends on what you mean by inappropriate. Like when I was just at running games at good Game Hole Con, like while I was running it, I had like I was gonna do sort of unconsciously, like as I was role playing an NPC or something, I was going to reach over and just like touch one of the players on the shoulder. But something in my brain stopped me from doing that because I'm constantly inundated with like, oh, you can't do this, and you can't do that, and there's all these rules and the checklists and the X cards and microaggressions and blah 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 and stay 6 feet apart, and I was just like, maybe I shouldn't do that. So I stopped myself, and I hate it when I self-censor myself for stupid reasons. And so, yeah, I don't want to have any restrictions like that. Obviously, if you reach over in someone's pants and start like feeling for their junk, that would be not good. And
you don't say.
You might get bounced from the convention for something like that. But yeah, it's going to be like role playing back in the like.
Okay, 80s. But hang on. If you reach into someone else's pants, I get what you're saying, right? But what happens if in those pants you find an X card? Do they also get thrown out?
As long as the X card isn't presented. Maybe the guy has an X card fetish or girl. They want to keep it by their junk to like stimulate them while they're running Alpha Blue. I don't know. So just having X card on you isn't.
Oh, okay. All right. So, but trying to use it, yes.
If you try to use it, you're like, oh no, fuck you, Venger, and your tentacles. I got an X card. You're done here. I'm like, hey, Bubba, get this guy out of here. This guy's done. Hang up your dice, Hoss. You're done. You're out. Is
that it?
That's it.
All right. Some comments from the chat before we switch to Joe's announcement if he has one.
I hope you're going to read the super chat. I was going to interrupt to do that too.
I will, yeah. But first, Shadzar says, Pundit, I wonder, do you think Strixhaven College for 5e was a response to Invisible College by you? No, I don't think so. They're not the same kind of college. Invisible College is like a secret society. It's not a magical, it's not Harry Potter, right? It's not a magic school, right? So don't get confused by the name. But beyond that, I think that probably it's just, Strixhaven has been a long time setting of theirs. If anything, though, what they're ripping off is my Medieval Authentic College Adventures, which is one of my RPG Pundit Presents issues, which is way better than anything that Wizards, I think, could come up with. So if you want to have really crazy college adventures in the Middle Ages. And let me tell you, Oxford and Cambridge in the Middle Ages were dens of criminality, vice, and degeneracy. They were just hilarious. So all kinds of crazy stuff that happened. All right. Fantaside gave us a $5 super chat and said, I was in the end stages of creating content for their new Twitch channel, but then they dropped the document. I had approval and was set to go. So that's referring to Goodman, I assume.
Yeah.
All right.
So Goodman's already losing people over the document. You know, people are willing to
precisely
volunteer their time to promote his things.
Dracopol says the Crusaders cross state lines.
Oh, no.
You know, it's really funny how suddenly everybody in the left is really worried about maintaining borders, right? Like
right.
Something that they never gave a shit about it. No, 1 2 penny fuck about for the last 10 years. Mr. Triceratops says Richard Lionheart deserves an absolute Mad Lad episode. Yes, he definitely does.
Oh, we got another super chat from Emery Calamay. Oh, damn, everyone's going off. All right. Emery Calamay goes $5 super chat. Thank you very much, Emery. And she says, Invisible College not equal to Unseen
University.
I don't even know what that means. All right, who's reading the next one? Dracopol.
Canadian dollars.
Yeah, that's like a quarter or something, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, I appreciate any amount that people donate to us.
Said, please do not hide contraband in your pants at VentureCon like X cards, pink pussy hats, or the Communist Manifesto. We will check.
Actually, the pink pussy hats, I don't know. I might have to let that one slide.
Well, it does fit with Alpha Blue, doesn't it?
It does. It could be vagina cozy.
There could be like a whole race of pussy head aliens or something.
There you go. Add some tentacles on the side, like the face hugger, like spider legs, and you have something there, sir. Yes, indeed.
Always with the tentacles. Judd Goswick says, I enjoyed the Medieval College Adventure supplement. Thank you, Judd. And I think we're caught up. So, Job, any news for us on your stuff?
Chilling away. Okay, so I got lots of news. So the Book of Antitheses is finally out. I don't think it was out on the last episode. Maybe it was. It was about to be out, I think.
Yeah, you just announced it last time. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's out now. Unfortunately, you can only get it from the EU store. So, you know, it's like in US dollars, it's like $58, and then it's like another 30 or something, or 28 for shipping to the US. So
is it going to be available at the US store later, or is it just not going to happen because it's too perverted or something?
No, it's going to be there, but you know, like everything James does, he's like he does the orders first, and then he's got to palletize and ship it and everything. So he's saying now it's going to be like early next year when it's available on the US web store. Then you'll be able to get it for whatever, $58 plus whatever the US shipping is. So
he after not releasing anything for a really long time, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Joe, but if I'm right, after a really long time of not releasing anything, he suddenly released like 10 books at once. Is that right?
Yeah.
So
My book
that
has
is
been done
contrary
forever,
to all good business practices. You know that, right? Like,
yeah, he's trying to fix it, but you know, what are you gonna do?
Like, why not release once a month for 10 months in a row? That would be brilliant. But all right.
Right.
I guess if it works for him, it works for him. Whatever.
Well, he put them all out. I was like, dude, why don't you just not release them all? You have them in your whatever. Just don't release them all. Wait, like put out 2 a month for the next 5 months or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Makes more sense.
Anyway,
all
so
right, well, whatever. He's always, at least releasing 10 at once gave him some publicity, right?
Yeah.
Plus, you save money on shipping. I mean,
yeah, if you buy all 10
books at once is cheaper than.
Yeah, maybe he's counting on having such hardcore fans that they'll spend a small fortune to get all of them at once. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
So,
Could be.
so anyway, so Lord Mattias on Twitter said that he got his copy and read it, and actually just on the chat he just said that he finished it. So, and recommends it. So I recommend it as well. It's a pretty good book. And I've said before it's a woke book, but it's got a lot of levels to it. It's basically I know I'm not selling it to this crowd here, but just bear with me. It's a postmodern deconstruction of an RPG adventure. So just to give you some hints, there's not a single a random table in the entire book, but unless you look at it differently. And there's a lot of secret messages that are pretty woke in there, but the whole thing is like a metasigil. It's on this, or a hypersigil. It's on a. It's ultimately against wokeness. So I definitely check it out. It's a totally new way to run games, and I think people will like it once they dig into it. And of course, James is tomorrow. I think is releasing. He's been releasing for all the books, the books that why he's been writing this thing on his Substack or his Blogspot. Why he released each of the books. He ordered them from 10 to 1, and 1 being the most scared book that he is to the book he's most scared to put out. So the Book of Antithesis is number 1 for a reason. So if you read it, I think a lot of people are going to get pretty offended by it, but we'll see what happens. So I'll just, I'm just telling you guys, it's not. Don't take it at the surface level. There's a lot going on in it.
Well, I was, besides the really weird shit that's going on in your adventure, I was offended by it as a practitioner of high magic. So
yeah, there we go. Exactly.
Confirm that.
Yeah, you accused me of cultural appropriation, didn't you?
I think so. Yeah.
All right. I triggered RPG Pundit.
That's
I got to be doing something right. Anyway, also I got a surprise. I've got like 20 something Into the Demon Idols left. I want to get rid of them, so I'm selling them for $5. That includes shipping if you're in continental US.
That's a great deal.
Yeah, so email me.
It's a really good adventure. I ran it. It's really fun.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just got someone just translated it. Translated the adventure into in a Portuguese or whatever, and one of my name searches I turned it up. So they did a translation of the one-page dungeon I wrote in 2014 that the map came from, basically. So anyway, yeah, email me at orders@bloodyhannergames.com. This is gonna be a limited time sale, until the next episode, or until I run out of these copies here. It's gonna be half price.
Nice.
Back to the show. The chat.
All right. So, Legion of Myth just said pundit is the modern Israel Regardier. Well, in a way, that's high praise, I guess. Yeah. I don't know how Israel Regardier-ish I am, but thank you for that. Timothy Shanks said, I just bought some of Pundit's PDFs for Lion and Dragon at drive-thru. Thank you, Timothy. All right, so getting to the non-gaming topic of the evening, we've got with us here a native Wisconsinite, and so that makes it all the more appropriate.
That's right. I'm here.
Kyle Rittenhouse did absolutely nothing wrong, and now it's been said so in a court of law. So how is that? How great is that?
That's extraordinarily awesome, because I was worried. I was worried for him, because he seems like a good kid. They got caught up in that craziness that night. It's good news because hopefully it'll discourage people from rioting. I mean, I know there's a whole slew of riots and civil unrest and protests, demonstrations in certain cities.
But not Kenosha, right?
Not Kenosha. Partly because, and Jeremy Hambley from the Quartering mentioned this too. Partly because Wisconsin is fucking cold right now. You don't want to just like hang out for hours at a time at nights in Wisconsin in November. You will freeze your balls off. Even though,
but I think part of it too is that they know now, right? Like there's all these people saying, "Oh, this is just going to encourage other people to do what Kyle Rittenhouse did." Well, let's fucking hope so. Let's hope it encourages 1,000 people to go out whenever there's an Antifa riot and go out there not with the intent to hurt anyone, but with the intent to make sure that these guys stop destroying property, burning things, or beating people.
Yeah, because I don't know how people miss it, but it's crazy out there. People are getting killed. The stores are getting looted. Places of businesses are being destroyed. Arson, graffiti, and murder. It's bananas out there, and people are just like, "Oh, well, it's mostly peaceful protests." So
it's bullshit.
I know it's putting an end to the myth. A lot of things are coming to light. There was that journalist that wrote about the destruction of Kenosha in 2020, like in August or whatever, and they weren't allowed to, or they submitted it, and they didn't run the piece until after the presidential election because they didn't want to, disturb their delicate narrative that protesting or rioting in the name of racial justice was okay and was a good thing, and there weren't any, negatives. There weren't any cons. It was all good. But obviously, this sucked for, they basically burned several cities down throughout the whole year in different places, from like Portland and Seattle to, Chicago, Kenosha, probably LA and New York, and, tons of places. It's not cool. And so I'm hoping that that his acquittal will, stop the riots, or at least keep them down, keep people more civil. If you're going to protest, great, protest. Don't start acting a fool, right, being violent and destroying people's shit. Property is
what I actually hope will happen is that in reasonable places, you're going to have the local authorities will actually do their fucking job, right? Like you're going to get police, National Guard, or whatever will actually be brought out. They'll actually be told, if someone's damaging property, trying to loot, arson, or physically assault people, arrest them, and they will be charged and they will be sentenced, right? Because when that happens, you don't need the everyday citizens to go out and arm themselves, right?
Exactly. What do you think is going to happen? The problem is police, and everybody is told to like stand down, and
the governor of Wisconsin and the mayor of Kenosha gave Antifa a blank check to destroy the city, and that was the reason that this happened.
Right. If more people like Kyle had stood up in the face of all this, the police just like, well, just let them do what they're going to do. There'd be a lot less, people being murdered. I mean, it's skyrocketing right now, even in 2021. People are being shot every weekend in Chicago, in New York, and in California. It's nuts.
Jack TH71 said something very interesting here. He said, Rittenhouse knows how to handle a gun properly. And, I've got a friend of mine, older than I am. He's an SAS veteran. Okay, so the SAS are like the elite. They're like, they recently did a little war game with, I think, the Navy SEALs in the U.S. They're the British version of that, basically. And they kick the Navy SEALs' asses, like they're really like the super elite troops of the British Army, right? And that guy, he pointed out to me, right, that at that, in that sort of scenario, when he was like, he waited to the last minute to fire, and he did, 3 shots that were just incredible given the situation he was in. the short amount of reaction time that he had to have, and it showed an enormous level of actual training, and he had a lot of discipline because he didn't, one of the many lies they told about him is that they wanted to make it seem as if he'd just gone over to the crowd and started shooting indiscriminately. No, everybody he fired at were people that were like on the verge, like they were a second away from attacking him. Right. And he was, and in spite of, like, there's very few actual soldiers that would be able to fire with that level of accuracy, so it was apparently very impressive. I'm not a gun expert, but this friend of mine definitely is. And he said, that was like SAS level firing going on there.
Yeah. I was sweating bullets at the end of the trial there, because I think probably you guys did the same as me. I watched, one of those edited videos with, I don't know if it was Richie McGinnis or that other guy, I forget his name, that had like edited together all the video of that night. But if you watch it, you're like, okay, this kid is completely defending himself. There's, I don't know how anyone can reach any other conclusion by watching like everything strung together. And honestly, I think Kyle Rittenhouse would be in jail for life if there wasn't all that video out there.
Yeah.
Sure.
That guy got lucky as hell.
He could have
it's a lucky thing that the FBI was filming all this.
Or maybe he could have slunk away in the shadows, just like the hundreds of other rioters. And
but he wouldn't have, because he was trying to turn himself over to the police. He was going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
The problem is that in the modern American government, if you try to do the right thing, you're the one who's punished, and people that are doing horrible things are not, including the guy that survived, that came, who actually had an illegal firearm and tried to shoot Kyle Rittenhouse, has not been charged to this day. He testified against Kyle in the trial. Yeah, it turned out his testimony helped the defense, but still, that guy should be tried. He should be arrested and sentenced and sent to jail for his firearm violation.
So one thing, I've got to go in a couple minutes, but one thing that I always kind of wondered in the back of my mind, and nobody brought it up, how come the guy that is a convicted child molester, child raper, this pedophiliac guy, this pedophile, how come he wasn't still rotting in jail? And I asked it on Twitter. I was having a discussion with a bunch of people, and this woman tweeted back that she had looked at the court records or something like that. He only got 3 years. He 5 counts of either molestation or child rape. He got 3 fucking years. The horn guy, the horn shaman from the Capitol protest.
Yeah, he got 3 years too.
More jail time than this guy that was convicted of the most heinous crimes you can perpetrate on someone. I just can't believe that. I mean, you should be getting like minimum 15 years. That guy should be in prison. That guy shouldn't even be walking around to be in a riot, to get shot in the fucking head.
Well, I love what Tucker Carlson said, right? That Joseph Rosenbaum died as he lived, trying to touch a minor against his consent.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the more poetic justice because of all that. But right, that right there, all the people that are bitching and whining and complaining about Kyle Rittenhouse, either being free man or being down there in the first place, half of those people should be complaining or crying foul about this convicted pedophile walking around after 3 fucking years, and maybe some probation.
People have looked into Antifa. That there's an enormous percentage of Antifa members who are on sex offender registries, right?
Yeah. Why is the FBI focused on? I know some of the people at the Capitol on January 6th were bad and did some bad things. But the vast majority, I mean, they're being hunted and treated like the worst of the worst criminals. Meanwhile, all these people from Antifa, and of course, President Asshole is like, oh, well, Antifa doesn't really exist. Yeah, just like, I don't know, just like the immigration crisis doesn't exist, or just like women.
Critical race theory doesn't exist. Yeah.
Critical race theory doesn't exist. It's just an idea. Why are you so scared, Republicans and conservatives and normal people? Oh my God. Okay, on that note, I gotta go. But
all right, Venture. We'll see you later.
Wait, on the note of pedophilia, you have to go. You suddenly remembered you had to go.
Hey now.
Hey, now apparently it's barely punishable in your state. So.
Yeah, don't get me started. Hey, I'm all for throwing the book at those people. I don't care if they're Antifa or if it's just some guy down the street. If you're a pedophile doing stuff with little kids, like, I think you should just be executed. So, on that note, Venger out.
All right. So if you want Venger to be able to stay up later, guys, don't forget to support us on Patreon. It's always welcome.
Where's your book, Venger?
Comments from the live chat. Chris Miller says, the media consistently reported that Jacob Blake was killed by police. He is, in fact, alive. Yes, he is. The media made so many lies about Kyle Rittenhouse. And so that's the funny thing, right? Like, Nicholas Sandman, the kid from that was harassed by a Native American, and then the media claimed he was the one doing the harassing. He got something like $250 million in lawsuits from these guys. So I can't imagine what Kyle Rittenhouse is going to get from all of these people, like MSNBC, CNN, Joe Biden, because Biden is immune from lawsuits when he's president. But when he was the candidate, he accused Kyle Rittenhouse of being a white supremacist, right? So he could get sued. It's going to be quite fun to watch the next year or so as these lawsuits start to happen. Now that Kyle has finished the criminal case.
That's the only way people are just going to stop these constant smears is some big settlements. They didn't learn their lesson with Nicholas Sandman. So
Windy City Weeb said the Latin Kings did a better job of protecting citizens from rioters last year than the police. Yeah, well, Latinos in general are kind of immune to CRT bullshit. So that wouldn't surprise me at all. They're not going to let people go into their neighborhood and destroy everything. Malachi's Mercurial Musing says more kids have been shot in Chicago this year than have died from the Kung flu. Well, yeah, I mean that's a given, right? And nobody seems to care about that.
Ridiculous.
Timothy Schenk says they were stalking jurors. The courts need to have the U.S. Marshals get on that. Yeah, I mean, in fact, certain people at MSNBC should be charged for that, and of course that's not going to happen either because the entire establishment of the United States is corrupt. Rob Couture says, sad to see Grim Jim flip his lid over the trial. Well, Grim Jim is consistently wrong about everything except free speech. So you just have to accept that about him, guys. Like he's got terrible, terrible ideas about pretty much everything except freedom of speech.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, man. I mean, I don't want to talk bad about him. He, he's a host on this show, but oh man, I feel like his opinions have gotten like worse and worse. It's just like, yeah. What are you reading, man? Like, how are you getting this information that you're so wrong all the time? Is that? Oh, we got a new subscriber, Nix991. Thank you, Nix.
Hey, awesome. Well, welcome, Nix91.
All right.
Timothy Shank says, how the hell did so many liberal people end up in Wisconsin and Minnesota? No idea.
So what are we doing now? Should we just open it up to the floor here, see if anybody wants to bring up anything else?
I'm looking through the chat here for the moment. Then I've got a little story to tell related to the reactions to Rittenhouse.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Let me just see here if there's anything else we want to mention here. Timothy Schenk says they added a statewide concealed carry in Missouri a couple of years ago, and there's been no shootouts at all. How amazing! Yep. Lord Mateo says Kyle Rittenhouse proves the left is the bad guy. They need him guilty to validate the riots that they went out of their way to rationalize. Well, you know what this trial proved. See, people, like, it amazes me to see the speed at which the United States is turning into a third world country. This is the kind of bullshit that you see in places like Argentina and Venezuela, right? Like in Venezuela, famously, you have these groups, I think they're called the cooperativas or something like that, which are basically political street gangs loyal to the, Maduro regime, and previously to the Chavez regime, that terrorize anyone who criticizes that regime. And they are essentially given complete protection by the regime. So like the regime doesn't need to send police out to intimidate people or to attack people or to burn down someone's house or to arrest someone. They just tell these guys, go get this guy, and they get them, right? And this is exactly what Antifa and BLM have become for the leftist establishment in the United States. It's exactly like what's happening. And it happened, the same thing happened in Argentina in the past. And, there's groups of thugs in Argentina that work for the Kirchneristas in the presence, right? So this is third world behavior. And so is, for example, massive spending that is causing hyperinflation, and this is very dangerous because these sorts of things are a slippery slope that accelerates very quickly, as we've seen in the last year, and that it is very, very hard to come back from after. It's really difficult for that to be later repaired. Extremely difficult. And so it's pretty scary as far as the future of the United States is concerned.
Agreed. Judd Goswick said, "How is things progressing on Brutal Blades?" You guys, I haven't worked on it in 2 months yet. Now, I've got a lot of life things have been happening. Including a death in the family yesterday. So, I need to get through. I'm probably not going to work on it for a couple months until all this craziness is over in my life. So, but
hey, Chris Miller just sent us a super chat here for $10.
Oh my God. I'm sorry,
he's
I
the
missed
number
that.
one fan. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much, Chris. That's awesome. I think that's a sticker, right? I think you got a sticker. Or
Yeah, it's a sticker, I think.
Sweet. Amazing. Thanks, Lord Mattias. Thanks, guys.
Indigo Dragon says, turning the U.S. into a third world country is their goal. Well, it is. The problem, the reason that certain nations that could be extremely prosperous, like the amount of resources and manpower and the level of education and commerce that Argentina has, means that it could, in theory, be, on the level of at least, France or Italy in terms of its productivity as a country. But the reason that doesn't happen is that it has an enshrined political class that would rather the country be impoverished so that they personally maintain control over the country and personally benefit and accumulate large amounts of personal wealth. And so that's why you have, like this infrastructure bill. The Republicans who voted for it were all, given essentially bribes in their districts. Money was going there that would benefit them, so they voted for it. And Nancy Pelosi's getting like $500 million out of it, stuff like that. So it's this is exactly what the problem is, right? If you have a political class that doesn't care about the country's welfare as a whole, they're happy to maintain the country in a state of unnecessary third world poverty and social collapse, as long as they keep benefiting. You know.
Hey, we just got a new subscriber too. I scrolled off the thing. I think it said Steve Miller. So big fan of your works, your music, Steve Miller. Thanks for subscribing.
You sure that wasn't Chris Miller?
No, he must have been subscribed already. I don't think he could have. I don't know.
Oh, he was already a subscriber.
If you just subscribe, tell us in the chat room. I'm sorry I said your name wrong.
Right. Let us know if you're the brand new subscriber. So on Twitter, there's been a lot of really super hot takes about the Rittenhouse case and the verdict. And of course, one of the big arguments, the argument that the prosecution made is, oh, he should never have been there, right? And, you know, that's a ridiculous argument because it suggests that Antifa should have been there, right? But he shouldn't have. Yeah. You know, like it's saying the quiet part loud, that they wanted Antifa to be there. They wanted Antifa to destroy Kenosha. And anyone who resisted that was the person that the establishment thinks shouldn't have been there, right? But beyond that, we've got now there's this woman who's I forget her name now, but she's a human rights lawyer, and she suggested that if that the laws in the United States should be changed so that if you go looking for trouble, that was her own words, then you don't have a right to self-defense when trouble comes to you, right? You don't have a right to argue self-defense, at least. And, you know, this is really funny because the argument is basically, you know, the same as saying, well, she shouldn't have dressed like a slut, right? Like whatever happens to her after that is okay. You know, like this is the mentality that these people have now, you know. It's an insane perspective for the left to take after years and years of saying, you know, for the most part correctly, that you know, somebody dressing a certain way or, you know, being publicly of a certain sexual predilection or what have you is not a justification for them to be attacked, right? So they're saying, you know, now they're saying if a woman is dressed in a way that someone might consider provocative, which could be anyone who isn't wearing a burqa, if that person gets assaulted, they shouldn't try to resist being assaulted for that. You know, it's madness. That's what that law would suggest, you know, and yet this has become the left's new narrative, you know. Jed Gossick says, isn't rioting and looting looking for trouble? Well, yeah, exactly. But the problem is the rioting and looting is state endorsed by default. If you do not send police to stop the rioters and looters, you are saying that it is okay for that group to go and riot and loot because it benefits the interests of the establishment, you know.
Yeah.
Anyways, any other comments from the live chat here? Anyone else want to bring anything up either on Rittenhouse or any other topic before we finish off? Unscripted and Unchained said, I just designed a hero forge of Rittenhouse.
That's awesome. They'll probably like ban that selection of model entries soon. Oh, I did want to throw one more thing out there is that one thing with the Rittenhouse verdict and then the lack of rioting afterwards, to me that's a pretty hopeful sign. I mean, for one, I think especially with that, you know, the FBI drone footage that, you know, was suddenly dropped right near the end because they were trying to get him, but they couldn't really do anything. I don't know. I get maybe I'm just a conspiracy theorist, but I mean, I feel like, there were certain government entities that maybe didn't want our former president to get reelected, and it might have ginned up more more discontent
Totally.
than would have
Totally.
been warranted, last year.
Yeah.
But that's not happening now. It's like this. I don't know. Metaphysical power is waning.
Yeah. Well, Silver Seraph says, I personally feel the left is collapsing, support is cratering. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that, but there have been a lot of hopeful signs. The recent elections in Virginia and New Jersey are indicative that they decided completely contrary, because when they ran, Biden was running on saying, I'm going to bring people together, right? But then as soon as they got into power, they turned very hard to the left and completely unapologetically, which everyone saw coming. I mean, I knew that was what they were going to do. I mean, everyone except the people that voted for Biden, I guess, saw that coming. But their policies are just so radical that a bunch of people have now, between that and the super-inflation and all the other bullshit, the complete botch that they did of the Afghanistan withdrawal. It's a good sign that at least in 2022, in the midterms, there's likely to be some pretty serious consequences for the Democrats. It's hopeful. The only person with a lower approval rating than Biden is Kamala Harris, which has led to, it's been reported that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is considering doing a presidential run in 2024. And I'm like, yes, my God, yes, please. She has to run. And we have to do everything possible to tell every leftist we know that if they don't vote for her in the primary, they are sexist and misogynist and racists. So that they'll make her the candidate. That would just be like fantastic, because then it wouldn't matter who ran, whether it was Trump or DeSantis or a cardboard box running as Republican candidate. It would just be a complete blowout. Assuming they don't cheat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hope it's
It's a
most
big
of these
assumption these days.
the establishment GOP though, man. I mean, I'm just afraid we're going to trade establishment Dems for establishment Republicans, and we're going to be in the same boat.
Absolutely.
Just different pockets are going to, or different palms are going to be greased.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I think is very clear though is that having been elected did not weaken Trumpist republicanism. It just strengthened it, right? Like there's more determination now than ever. And so a whole bunch of these Republicans that thought it was okay to now, switch back to being the establishment tools they always were, have exposed themselves, and a ton of them are going to be seriously primaried. Now, not all of them are going to lose, because a lot of them are in districts that they have a lot of control and influence over. But it's going to be a very hard time to be a Democrat in 2022. But it's also going to be a very hard time to be one of these rhinos, one of these establishment Republicans. So I'm hopeful about that as well.
Yeah. Oh, well, Steve Roberts got us a question here. He said, "Are gaming companies going after the ESG woke investing money?" So for people who in the audience who don't know what that is, ESG is environmental, social, corporate governance. People speculate that's the reason behind a lot of this woke pushes of Marvel or movie studios and stuff, where these large corporations like Disney get investment money from multi-trillion-dollar investment companies like BlackRock and stuff. And part of it is they have to appeal to this ESG policies. So basically think of it as like a social credit score for corporations. I don't think most gaming companies are on the level where they could try to do that. Maybe Hasbro, but I don't know. What are your thoughts, Ben? Pundit?
Well, I think that certainly influences their hiring practices, and those hiring practices are what allow extreme leftists to end up in positions where they can influence the products being made, be it in Hollywood or in Hasbro or anywhere else, in video games, etc. I think that needs to also have its own pushback, and I think that's got to happen, and I think it will happen eventually. But yeah, it is a problem, right? Because they get they get subsidized to do stuff that is going to make them otherwise unprofitable. So it's allowing them to maintain the production of absolute garbage that nobody wants to buy because they're still benefiting from it. But that sort of thing, it can't last forever, at least not from the private sector. Like there's a point in which you'd still end up going broke, So it's it's just a question of when those investments turn too bad, then they're not going to be supported by any investment group, no matter what.
Yeah, but when these companies have, this is I don't know. I've been thinking of this for a while. It's like the a post meritocratic society where, like, say you have like a Google where they have so much freaking money, that they kind of can just blow money on anything, and it doesn't even matter anymore because they keep generating revenue, and your inputs get decoupled from reality. I don't know. That's what I think a lot of this stuff is that, like, we're like entering this period of abundance where it like it doesn't matter anymore, Like I think poor people in America, first world countries, are going to get there first, whereas like we're going to have to, we see like all these like vices and just like the mistakes that celebrities make and like sex, drugs, all that kind of stuff. That I think we're moving, as the world becomes richer, as like the average person becomes richer, we're going to move further and further to where like every human is going to have to like grapple with these like problems of the super rich. You know what I mean?
Well, I do understand that, but let's have the United States get a couple of years of hyperinflation and see how long that lasts.
Yeah. Like,
this is the thing. You can't escape reality. You can just deny it until things collapse. So let's hope it doesn't get to that. But if that's how it's going to go, then eventually it will get to that, and that'll be it.
Yeah, that's definitely the danger. Like when you no longer are perceiving like actual reality anymore, then you could have just this utter collapse and no one knows what to do. Like, because you're not seeing.
It happened to the Roman Empire,
Yeah, you can't see the iceberg anymore. Like you just don't perceive it anymore, but it's still there.
Yeah. Judd Goswick asked me, Pundit, will you make another diceless role-playing game at some point? Well, there's none in the works right now, but it's not beyond the realm of possibility. It could happen. It's theoretically possible. Seafire says, the left's still coiled around the U.S. via the government, Department of Justice, media, education, etc. Absolutely true. And if you want to make a serious criticism of the Trump presidency, it's that it did far too little to actually address that, right? What we need is to get at somebody elected. First of all, what we need is for large-scale grassroots election of conservatives in small office, right? In school boards, in city hall, those kind of local commissioners, all that sort of thing, and get all these people out at that ground level and change policy at the level of like, towns and cities. And then you've got to get governorships and state assemblies and take control of things like redistricting. And you've got to get a presidency that will be supported by a Congress that has a majority of the right kind of Republicans. And then you have to do a serious purge of the unelected bureaucrats in Washington, and so that's not an easy thing to accomplish. It's really, really complicated. But it's the only way that this gets repaired, because it's not going to, it wouldn't matter. Like, let's say if a Republican wins in 2024, whether it's Trump or DeSantis or somebody else, if they don't address this issue, then all it will be is a 4-year semi-holding pattern or an 8-year semi-holding pattern until the rot gets deeper and deeper, that's not going to be an answer by itself. Let me see here. What other comments have we got?
Well, people are talking a little bit about
Derek,
Amber Diceless. Have you ever discussed? I mean, I know you've talked before about how Eric, I don't know how to say it, Woodsick was like your the writer.
Wujik.
How do you say it?
Wujik.
Oh, Wujik. He was kind of a mentor to you. Did you ever how did you meet that guy? How did you guys get to know each other?
Well, I got to know him because I was a big fan of the Amber Diceless RPG, right? And he had a fanzine for a while called the Amber Zine. And this is not like an internet thing. This was a print magazine. So we're talking about the early 90s here, right? And so, you had to write to him to get it. And I did that. And I got all of the Amber Zines. And I entered into an email conversation with him. And it turned into a kind of long-term communication between the two of us that was, for me, I don't know how much for him, but for me, it was incredibly beneficial in terms of, we were talking about all kinds of things, including, he was really into Eastern philosophy and, Chinese culture and things like that, which I was at that time learning a lot about. And of course, we talked a lot about role-playing and DMing, and he was, hugely influential in terms of my, what I learned about how to be a good DM. And he also talked a lot about kind of game design, which I wasn't doing at that time, of course, but that later became important to me as a designer too. Yeah, he was a great guy.
Oh, that's really cool. That's awesome. Oh, you guys. One thing I forgot to mention before you go on, Pundit, is I'm gonna be on the Thoth Hermes podcast, which is this long running occult podcast. Let's see. I think it's going to air in early December. So if anyone can't get enough of me and you want to watch me talk about the Book of Antitheses, it's check out Thoth Hermes podcast.
Very good.
Is
that on YouTube or is it on like some podcast channel thing?
What's that?
Is that on YouTube or some kind of podcast network?
It's on both. It's on YouTube. Yeah, just search Thoth Hermes.
No, I never heard of those guys.
Yeah, I thought you would have heard of. They got some really good like Masonic content. I don't know. Do you know who Jamie Paul Lamb is?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. I just picked up his
name. Doesn't ring a bell.
Check it out. You might like some of their content actually. Their last one just dropped. It was on Chinese magic. So.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll check them out and I'll tell you what I think later.
All right.
Dracopol said, we had voting machines in the last Alberta election. Things went left big time. Yeah, but, also, Dracopol, the Conservative Party in Alberta are a bunch of useless losers and traitors, so it kind of, that's not a huge surprise, right, at this point. So it's, I'm not too sure that was necessarily because of any kind of electoral fraud. It's because Alberta doesn't really have a viable Conservative Party at this time, right? Like Jason Kenney is a useless piece of garbage. Point it out to me if you think I'm wrong, but that is my impression of him. Charlotte Williams says, Larry Fink, the head of BlackRock, has about $12 trillion that we know of, and he throws it around to make other companies dance to the tune of wokeness. Well, yes, but they are still they're a very serious, investment conglomerate, and the people, BlackRock is successful because it makes money for the people that are involved in BlackRock, right? So I don't think that they're going to do that for stuff that isn't, that they're not in the business of keeping dead companies afloat, So this is an impossible thing for them to maintain because it's not government. If it's government, that's a totally different story. Their government can maintain dead companies forever if they want to, because that's the problem with government. Rob Couture says, thoughts on Biden trying to appoint a communist to the Federal Reserve Well, it's just insane. You know, the candidate that he wants to put forward is this person that she wants to literally destroy the banking system. She said so, you know, like she also apparently got arrested at some point for shoplifting, you know, like it's just madness that this would be a viable candidate. So, you know, I really hope that this doesn't work out for them, but it's unbelievable that would ever be a viable candidate to begin with. Judd Goswick says, Timothy Shanks, if you like Amber, Lords of Olympus is a very good partner game for it. I love Greek myths, so it's my favorite Amber like right now. Well, thanks, Judd. Let me see. What else have we got here? A lot of comments about Amber, apparently. Lord Mateus says, I don't think Trump realized how deep the problem is, and indeed, I don't think any of us really knew. Yeah, well, in many ways, the Trump presidency, which did some really wonderful things, but also fundamentally failed to fix the most important things, was an object lesson in exposing the deep state in a way that had never been exposed before. So now the thing is, the next Republican government has to go all in against these people because you know, if whoever is the candidate in 2024 has to understand that these guys will continue to do the same thing. They will be at war with the Republican president from day one, and the Republican president has to be at war with them from day one. It has to like absolutely clean house.
Yeah.
It's a matter of survival.
Yeah, I think Trump's going to want to run again. I don't know, but I mean, I think it's good that he didn't get reelected in a way. In that, I hope his team is sitting there figuring out like how they're going to build the new government. They need to go in there and just like fire everybody.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's not listening, not following orders, whatever. They just need to just like clean house on day one.
Absolutely hard on them. Yep.
Yeah, and have their whole roster ready to like shove in there to get this stuff done. You know.
Yeah. Judd Goswick says Job needs to get on MeWe. Well, yeah, absolutely right. You know, MeWe is awesome, and you have to get on there, and you have to get onto the Inglorious OSR.
I am on MeWe. I've got an account. I just haven't logged in for years.
Oh, well, you should check out the groups. Check out the Inglorious OSR group and the DCC group.
If you look, I'm probably a member on them. Honestly, I think I joined all those a long time ago. I haven't logged in forever. I like MeWe because as far as it was similar to Google Plus.
Yeah.
But yeah, I should. Sorry, guys.
Darren P says, Pundit, you're absolutely right about Kenny. All right, good. Glad to confirm that. Shark says President Trump was discussing the challenges he faced in office, and he said that the true depth and entrenchment of the swamp surprised him. It was far deeper than even he expected. Yep.
Oh, Trevor Hurst said, meeting Goodman Games people at convention was a letdown. I quit wanting to play those convoluted rules. I agree with him in that, you know, at the beginning, Goodman Games was just like everybody. It was kind of like, you know, Gary Con Gamers, where you can get left and right people and whoever is just gamers. And there definitely was like this transition over the years for DCC, where like if you wanted to hang out with like the DCC people, you had to, you know, they would start kind of spouting leftist type of stuff, and you know, it was very clear that they're, you know, filtering out the people that didn't agree with them ideologically. You know, I just didn't agree with that. That's kind of why I kind of walked away from that group, honestly. You know, I like try to be friends with all kinds of people. I've always like had a bunch of different groups of people that I'm friends with, and I don't really have I don't have any kind of ideological test, you know, other than if you keep annoying me too much, I just will get sick of listening to you and stop hanging out with you. Well,
you know, I'm a fan of DCC as a system, and I've run what is quite possibly the longest running DCC campaign of all time. It's getting really close now to the 10th anniversary.
Yep.
And you can see the audio. Well, you can hear the audios of our sessions on the Bill the Elf YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for Bill the Elf. It's the world of the Last Sun. It's where my Last Sun book comes from, which is full of great stuff for anyone who wants to do gonzo gaming. Luckily, though, apart from the main book, we don't really use any DCC products, so it's completely easy for me at this point because I just made all my own Last Sun stuff, right? So I can continue playing that campaign without ever getting any other DCC material from this point on, if this is how they want to play it.
Right.
So check out World of the Last Sun, available from Spectre Press on drive-thru. Shadzar says, looks like my next RPG DG might be a review of DCC. Well, yeah. DCC itself is a really good system. It's a great OSR system, but the people making it these days have lost their way.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's a good system. They innovated. Oh.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's some stuff about it that I absolutely love, and
the DCC community. As soon as everyone starts calling themselves a community, it seems like it's time to go. Well,
did I get disconnected?
No, I'm here. Yeah, I couldn't hear anything coming from you.
Oh, sorry. I think I got briefly disconnected there.
Okay.
I was saying that DCC is a game that most people play just to do like 0 level character funnels, they're okay a couple of times, but it is in a campaign like mine where you've got characters that are now 7th to 10th level in DCC. Where again, 10th is the highest possible level you can get to. That's really, that's really excellent play. Like it holds up really, really well. And that's a rarity because I've always thought that high level D&D does not hold up very well.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I mean,
high-level Lion and Dragon does hold up really well, though. So if you want a medieval authentic game that holds up well, that's a good way of doing it.
All right. Well, you ready to pack it in, man?
Yeah, I think so. I'm having some connection issues, so I think we might as well take that as a sign that it's time to finish up here. Thanks to everybody who was listening today. Sam Basco just said, keep up the great work, guys. Pundit is the spearhead of truth for the OSR. Thank you so much. Seafire says, Chungus and Meatball working on the wiring again. Well, no. Meatball is here sleeping next to me on the desk, and I have no idea where Big Chungus is, but she's somewhere downstairs. Again, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Oh, Judd Gossick just asked, what level have your L&D PCs gotten up to? Well, I've played more than one Lion and Dragon campaign. In the Dark Albion campaign, I had characters that got up to I think about 13th or 14th level, which is really high for Lion and Dragon because the default assumption in Lion and Dragon, even though there's no technical level limit, the default assumption is that the best, greatest heroes in the setting are somewhere between 11th and 15th, right? And in the current campaign, I've got some guys who have 12th level characters. So, yeah, and it holds up very, very well. Because, in Lion and Dragon, what you have is this characteristic where your characters at high level are incredibly powerful, but they can also still have, in any battle, they still have at least some level of threat of death outside of just hit point attrition. Because, there's critical rules and you could also, die of an infection or something like that, So it means that there's you can have this effect. In my upcoming book, I'm pointing out that one of the characteristics of medieval authentic role playing needs to be that death is something that is a constant risk. There's no resurrection spells, and the example being Richard the Lionhearted, right? Who is the great hero of the Third Crusade and just like an absolute combat monster, and was just one of the greatest warriors of Christendom in the Middle Ages. And he ends up dying from a single crossbow bolt shot by a boy, like a 14-year-old kid that hits him with a crossbow bolt, and it gets infected and he dies. So this has got to be a reflection if you want there to be skin in the game as far as good medieval authentic role playing.
Definitely.
Anyway, I guess that's it for today, guys. We'll see you soon, and be sure to subscribe. Our next episode today is what, the 21st of November. So it'd be, I think, on the 19th of December. I guess that'll be our Christmas episode. All things being equal, assuming there's no. Is that right? Because today is. Last time I said this wrong, but today's the 21st, so 4 weeks from now, 28, 5, 12, 19. Yeah, the 19th of December, if all things work out that way.
19th. Oh, okay. That should be good for me too, actually, Pundit.
Excellent. All right. So keep an eye out for us on the 19th of December. It'll be a Christmas special, I guess. Maybe we'll have Santa Claus as a guest star.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate
See you
all
all
the well
soon.
wishes. Everyone showing up.
Take care.